right, so hi guys, Alex.Courson. Welcome to my channel again. Thank you for coming back. And obviously my background has totally changed again, yay. So we are working remote due to COVID-19, and I thought it would be appropriate for me to invite my friend Natasha, who works over at ID Agent as the head of business development over there, to kind of go over and join me for just best practices, what we should be doing, why people are freaking out, and what MSPs can be doing to kind of mitigate everything, and what we should be telling all of our clients. And yeah, so hi, welcome.
Hey guys, yeah, super excited to be here with Alex. Obviously we are not in the office, so working remote for the foreseeable future until, everything is safe and healthy for us to be back out in the public again. So, definitely security is top of mind right now for our partners, and trying to figure out, what does this new normal look like, and how do we still maintain levels of security with our customers and their employees when offices are just being shut down completely.
Right. And because it's World Backup Day today, we actually just did a webinar, which I will drop the link underneath for what that webinar is. It's talking all about dark web monitoring and backup, and we sound like we actually know what we're talking about. It's amazing. But we wanted to kind of go over just a little bit more casually, just, some best practices for you all, what you can be doing. I know it's definitely a different world out there right now, and especially on National Backup or World Backup Day, as we're all stuck indoors. But I wanted to highlight a little bit about what Natasha does, because you are amazing at basically verbalizing how and why people need to be monitoring their credentials, protecting their clients and everything from a dark web perspective, and realizing why it's such a big deal. And I think that's really part of, it's in like 6 minutes or less, right? Like, what we can do, because I'm always the backup girl, right? Like I'm the one that's telling them how to save their stuff after it goes away. And you're much more proactive, and you're like, hey, why lose it at all? So
yeah, I think data, it's, you always need backup, that's just kind of, it's a no-brainer. But, where ID Agent comes in, and with dark web ID and bullfish ID, essentially, and for those that, maybe listening that aren't super familiar, what we're doing with dark web ID is monitoring the dark web for credential exposure. So emails and passwords that get out onto the dark web, and they may be for sale, they may be for auction, they may just be out there for the taking. So we've seen, data sets that people are like, here's a bunch of emails and passwords from X website, download if you want them. And we're alerting you to that exposure so that you can act really quickly with your customer and say, this person needs to go change their password right away. And then with bullfish ID, so phishing simulation, security awareness training, kind of taking it then a step further and actually putting proactive plans in place to train your employees. And I think now more than ever, we always talk about this, creating a culture of cybersecurity. So you want to have a culture within your organization where people aren't afraid to raise their hand and say, I think I did something stupid, right? I think I clicked on something that I wasn't supposed to, and I don't know what to do. So, we've always been, from day one, focused on helping MSPs create that culture for their customers. So really, having visibility into employee behavior so that you can adjust that behavior when needed, right? So, a lot of times people don't have visibility into what's happened until they need to get someone like Alex involved when everything is gone, or, you're completely locked out and you have no idea if you're going to get your data back, or, something, insane has happened, like a hurricane or a global pandemic, and we're all, super focused on keeping things secure. So, we like to kind of take that like 10 steps back and say, all right, let's start at a point where we just are giving you visibility. We're just telling you what's going on so that you can help your employees and the business owners kind of make that smart decision about all right, our finance department, their passwords are popping up more than any other department in our organization. We've got a problem here. We have to like isolate this. We have to say, look, you guys need to stop using the same password for everything. So you're able to really start building that culture where it's not just cybersecurity from, the CTO or from your help desk. It's cybersecurity from the top down. And that's sort of really important, message, not even when we're in these crazy uncertain times, but even when things are really good. Security, I think, kind of takes a back seat when, you're really focused on building your business and making money and moving forward, when it should be a pillar of what your company is all about. And, it becomes even more important when you've suddenly got your entire team working from home, when, if, you've got, Sally in sales just sitting on her couch, online shopping and, doing her work because now she's at home and it's a much more relaxed environment, there's a problem there, right? So you still want to be able to have all of those same standards in place, regardless of where your employees are working from, because, we all know that we're more vulnerable when we're relaxed, right? We're more vulnerable when we're not super vigilant about what's going on and what we're doing. So just having, we're just all about that visibility and that awareness.
But what are the 3 things in your mind that an MSP has to do proactively to make sure that their clients are safe and it's not going to take all of their money, right? Like we don't want to, we're trying to give you resources so that what do you need right now? What can you kind of take a break from? But still don't be stupid, right? Like we need to make sure that we're not all in freak out for pandemic, but being cognizant and taking proper precautions, right? So like, what are the 3 things that you think they can do?
Yeah. So, one thing that I think is really, really important in times of distress when, you're not sure as an MSP if your customers are going to be able to continue to pay you and to kind of help you run your business, essentially, I think it's really important to have tools in place that allow you to have meaningful and regular touch points with your customers. So you don't just want to pop up when something's going badly. You want to be top of mind for them as their partner and as their technology provider all the time, right? So things like, and again, we're not trying to sell you anything here, but things like dark web monitoring, phishing awareness, security awareness training, all of those things.
We can totally put a link there. Like you're going to see the link.
Yeah,
you can get there.
Right. So but those are the things that give you a reason to call your customer, because the worst thing that can happen is if you as the MSP kind of fall off the radar of your customer because they're just trying to make ends meet and they're just trying to figure out how to move forward day to day. So things like, weekly reports, QBRs, all of these different touch points that you want to have meaningful and valuable data to share. So thinking about your, and there's things that are going to be in your cybersecurity or solution stack that, are non-negotiable, right? Like antivirus, all of those types of things like have to be there regardless. But then there are some of those additional solutions, and things like, the visibility things, so dark web monitoring, phishing training, all of that, you've got, kind of taking the backup piece, but then, as Alex can share, lots of different features and solutions that, different from just, on-prem backup, but other ways to really elevate, your disaster recovery as a service. So really being able to share these reports of like, look, this is, kind of where we stand with your data right now. This is, if the world were to end today, here's, what would happen tomorrow with your data and your kind of livelihood there. And then, taking it a step further and saying, look, we also in the last 2 weeks found 30 new compromises on the dark web for your employees. And we think this is spiking maybe because, they're logging into more third-party websites because they're remote, or they're logging into, insecure Wi-Fi that they can't, that you can't control. So, again, just figuring out a way with the solutions that you've got to create more meaningful touch points is, I think, a critical thing for MSPs to be focusing on right now, because you want to be able to kind of calm down the technology stress of all of this, because there's a ton of stress that these business owners are facing. And it's from, you know, not even being able to open their doors. You know, if it's a restaurant, not being able to, you know, actually have people come and go to your restaurant, and what happens to, you know, your people that you need to now tell them to stay home, right? So, you know, those things should be kind of top of mind and priority for the business owners. Your goal as the MSP is to take the technology and security side of it off of their plate. So just figuring out ways that you can continue to reassure them and give them data and tangible things that they can say, okay, at least I can lay down at night and know that I'm secure from a cybersecurity standpoint. So, you know, and that solution set may be different depending on, you know, what you've already got or, you know, what you're offering to your customers. But I think thinking about those proactive things, so maybe it's rapid fire tools and looking at, you know, different ways that you can have visibility into the network, whether it's, you know, ID agent, dark web monitoring. You know, another thing that's going to be really important right now too is documentation. You know, there's probably going to be a lot of turnover coming. There's going to be a lot of employees that unfortunately people have to let go and then maybe rehire, or, you know, different strategies and plans in place for remote employees. If you're not using some sort of documentation solution, and, you know, obviously we hope it's IT glue, but, you know, if you're not being super vigilant about outlining and documenting and recording all of these new plans that are changing so quickly, it's only going to come to bite you when things do normalize and you have to come back to this new version of normal. You know, what are the policies we just implemented when we were in the peak of this, that do we need to continue, or can we, you know, so really keeping a pulse on what's keeping this business running, and what can you do as an MSP to just help ease that fear for people.
100%, 100%. Well, Natasha, thank you. I'm not going to take too much of your time. Guys, like I said, we just did a webinar and it was all about backup and disaster recovery, and we will link that. Do you have anything that you want to give them as an incentive to go and check out for you and for ID Agent? Because I can link that down at the bottom, and we can give them a freebie or something so that they can check it out.
Yeah, so we do have a really great, so we did a blog post on cybersecurity in this COVID-19 kind of world and how cyber criminals are capitalizing on that and taking advantage of it. So we've got a really nice white labeled one pager that you can have and rebrand and offer to your customers, kind of as a way to, again, continue to provide value. So I can definitely send that to you so you guys can download that. Just a, you know, and it's not super technical or complicated, but a really great way for you to just help inform your clients on, you know, it's not just about keeping your employees, you know, physically healthy. Obviously that's priority, but, you know, it's also about thinking about, you know, good cyber hygiene and figuring out ways to keep the bad guys out when they're, unfortunately, they're bad guys. So they're capitalizing on a very vulnerable state right now.
Oh, I love that giveaway. That's amazing. That's so much value. Thank you. All right. So guys, if you got anything out of this, if you found it useful, helpful, whatever, make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the little bell so that we notify you every time we have something new coming out. Connect with Natasha on LinkedIn. Her last name is Boyko, B-O-Y-K-O. And if you are not connected with me on LinkedIn yet, what are you waiting for? So go ahead and subscribe. I will talk to you all later. See you next week. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.